Thin is in with the new Morimoto XRGB LED DRL fender chop kit. For your Jeep Wrangler JL or your Gladiator JT, we've got a super thin yet bright DRL option for those of you with a fender cut. With or without the Super 7 headlights, you can even control the RGB functionality for both the headlights and the DRL kit, all in the same Morimoto XBT app. With this XRGB LED DRL kit, you'll be able to totally customize and fine-tune the color of your choice for the DRLs. Just make sure to respect any on-road usage laws that apply to colors. In most states, you've got some road use laws that apply to color-changing DRLs, so you want to be careful and make sure you're in the white mode when driving, which is perfectly legal. In fact, these units default back to white during every power cycle. So every time the controller loses power and then gets power again, or is turned off and then back on, they're going to default back to white to keep you legal. These XRGB DRLs offer amazing intensity in a durable housing that's also going to add some metal bracing to your fender while you're wheeling. Available in both a standard and a highline version, you've got an option for if you've cut the fender line even with the hood for the highline, and then the standard is about 1.5 inches below the hood line. These DRLs are controlled by the Morimoto XBT Bluetooth controller. You're going to have a Bluetooth functionality for control with your smart device to control these, but also if you've got the Super 7s with the halos, if you've got the Morimoto Rocklight kits, you're going to be able to sync the colors between all of those parts with the same app. With these DRLs, you're also going to have the option to connect the turn signal functionality. Tapping into the OEM turn signal circuit, you're going to allow the lights to flash amber, overriding whatever color is selected when the turn signal is activated. From there, it's going to go back to whatever color you had it set to before the turn signal was activated. This whole kit is backed by a 5-year warranty, serviced and supported by our customer service team here in Atlanta, Georgia. Whether you need the Highline or the standard kit, we're going to include everything you need for the installation to be plug and play with no splicing or cutting involved with the wiring, with all of the harnesses included. If you have the factory LED DRL, you're going to need to run these little boxes. If you have the factory halogen or incandescent version, you're going to need to run these more robust resistors. But either way, everything's going to be included in these kits. Remember, the Highline version is for when your fender line is even with the hood line, and the standard version is when you're about 1.5 inches lower with that fender line to the hood line. And with that additional bracing that's added to the fender, it's going to be a powder-coated stainless steel, so you know you've got some corrosion protection for miles and miles of use. With the lenses, you're going to have a UV-coated polycarbonate for miles and miles of use as well. Now let's start the install. Removing the under fender, remove the 3 plastic push clips and 4 10mm bolts. Towards the back of the fender, remove the 10mm bolt and 2 plastic push clips. Pull the fender liner down and locate the connector towards the middle of the fender. Unplug it by sliding the red tab back and pressing the release tab down. The connector can now slide apart. Locate the 11 white plastic clips that secure the fender to the body of the Jeep. To release the clips, get a 7mm wrench and slide it over the back of the clip to help release it. Then pull it away from the vehicle. If any are damaged during this process and need to be replaced, they are Mopar part number 68526185AA. With all of the clips released, remove the fender and set it down on a soft, padded work surface to prevent any scratches. Remove the plastic Phillips head clip from the flap under the turn signal by unscrewing the head and then prying out the body of the clip. Lift up the flap and remove the 8 T30 Torx screws. Pry loose the wiring from the underside of the fender and disconnect the side marker and remove it. Flip the black plastic bracket out of the way, then firmly pull the turn signal assembly out of the fender. There's a strip of adhesive tape securing the assembly, so use moderate force. Remove the white plastic clip in the turn signal cavity. Firmly grab the upper and lower portions of the fender and firmly pull them apart. We recommend starting at the turn signal cavity and working your way back. There will be clips along the outer edge of the fender and small plastic welds along the center, so moderate force will be needed to separate them. As you get to the bottom or the rear of the fender, you will see the lower fender brace has the 2 plastic rivets that will need to be removed. Using a pick or a small screwdriver, push in on the center portion of the rivet until the 2 pieces separate and the rivet can be removed. Alternatively, they can also be drilled out or cut off. With the lower portion of the fender removed, go along the outer edge of the upper fender and use a razor blade to carefully cut off the 10 tabs left behind that the lower fender attached to. Be sure to always cut away from yourself and use appropriate PPE. Affix the new turn signal assembly onto the factory fender mounts using the provided 10mm bolts and 13mm nuts. Connect the turn signal harness to the factory turn signal connector. Make sure to use the turn signal harness with the 2 additional connectors on it on the passenger side and the one without on the driver's side. Locate the 3-pin connector on the turn signal harness. For vehicles equipped with factory incandescent DRLs or turn signals, Connect the included resistor. For vehicles with factory LED, connect the LED feedback module. Open the fuse box and locate the 10 amp fuse in fuse slot number 34. Remove the fuse and install the fuse tap harness into this slot. If you are also installing or have installed the Super 7 Halo kit as well, the same fuse tap can be used for both. Close the fuse box lid and reroute the fuse tap harness out and forward to the turn signal harness. Connect the fuse tap to the matching connector on the turn signal harness. If you are also installing or already have installed the Super 7 Halo kit as well, fit the included splitter in between the DRL harness and the turn signal harness so that the fuse tap harness may be used for both. Connect the 4-pin connector on the turn signal assembly to the corresponding connector on the turn signal harness. On the passenger side, you will also have a 2-pin barrel connector on the harness and assembly. This is to power the RGB controller. Connect them together to power the RGB controller anytime the vehicle ignition is on. If you would like to be able to power the RGB controller when the vehicle is off, plug the provided RGB input pigtail into the connector on your turn signal assembly and connect it to the switched power and ground source of your choosing. Route the crossover harness from either turn signal assembly across the upper radiator support and connect them in the middle. With your wiring completed, get in the vehicle and confirm that all functions are working properly. Once you've verified that everything is fully functional, go through and tuck all loose and excess wiring and secure it out of the way. Fit your fender onto the vehicle. Once you are happy with the fitment, mark the inner fender with the location of the hole on the tab on the turn signal bracket. Drill a 3/16 inch hole on your mark. Alternately, if you do not want to drill into your fender, double-sided tape can also be used here, though it is a little less secure. Secure the fender to the turn signal bracket with a provided pan head screw, 3mm Allen key, and an 8mm nut. The RGB daytime running light is controlled via an app on your smartphone. Download the free Morimoto XBT app to get started. Open the app and follow the prompts on the screen to pair your phone to the lights. For RGB controller operation, you want to make sure your app is set to output 1. To switch from RGB to the dedicated white daytime running light, simply slide the tone bar on the right-hand side of the screen all the way down to the bottom. Do not use the on-off toggle in the bottom left to turn off the daytime running light, as this will turn off the controller entirely. Vehicle ignition will need to be cycled off and back to power the controller on again. The controller is designed so that when the vehicle is turned on, the daytime running light will default back to white to keep you legal. So if you've got a Jeep Wrangler JL or a Gladiator JT and you're ready to make the cut, head on over to morimotolighting.com to get your XRGB LED DRL kit today.